Hey, welcome to the Move About Therapy Services YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about regulation and the typical nervous system. Hi, I'm Dave Jerub. I'm owner of Move About Therapy Services and author of the Move About activity cards. Today we're going to talk about regulation and arousal and look at a typical nervous system across the day. It's the first of a series where we're also going to look at sensory seeking, low arousal, sensory defensiveness, and we'll maybe even have a look at a group we call narrow band and how they all come together. Let's get into talking about sensory processing and regulation across the day. And so to backtrack on a previous video, sensory processing or sensory integration is that information comes in from your senses, you use it to make a plan, and your body performs that plan. Your senses tell you what's available in the world and what you need to do in the task in front of you. But they also help wake your body up or calm your body down, and we call that regulation. So you can do that with awareness, but often we do things without even thinking about it. So I'm going to talk about the day. It's often good to talk about this in terms of different zones you might be in. The alert program for self-regulation talks about high, low, and just right zones. I like to talk about the just right as maybe an optimal band. And so I have a high zone, I have a low zone, and I have a range in the middle, this optimal range, this optimal band that I'm functioning at my best. I'm awake and alert, but calm and grounded. So if we start the day, I do not start there. I wake up in the low zone and I must start with coffee. It is not negotiable. I have my coffee and then I have a shower. That's also not negotiable in the morning. That really wakes me up. When I teach on regulation and I ask the audience, often regardless of the size of the audience, it feels like half the audience likes a morning shower, half likes an evening shower, and another random 8 people do both. So showers really wake my body up. And so that's an important part of my sensory diet to get me going in the morning. So I have my coffee, have my shower, maybe have another coffee. I run around and get ready, but I'm just really not thinking clearly during that time. And so I do things where, because I haven't got to my optimal range and I'm in that low zone, I haven't woken my brain up to that top level, that cortex, that thinking brain. And so I do things like I put the jam lid on the peanut butter container. Well, it's not going to end right, but it just shows you I'm not thinking clearly. I had a particularly hard day not long ago, and I made my coffee, and then I thought, I need a Barocca to wake me up. So I went to the cupboard and got this Barocca, and I went to put it in my glass of water, but I wasn't thinking, and I turned around and put it in my coffee. So this is a fizzy, effervescent tablet for anyone who's not in Australia with Barocca, and it was meant to go in the water, not the coffee, and I had to throw them out and start again. Well, it's not going to end. But it's a really good example that my brain hadn't woken up to that thinking brain. It's also, that's the part of your brain where you're using language and accessing language as well. So it's not a great time to ask me questions. I'm like, can't talk, can't get into it. Now, hopefully by the time I get into my car to go to work in the morning, I'm in my just right, my optimal band. But what I might do to wake myself up a little bit is maybe I push on the steering wheel, give myself a bit of stretch, input to my proprioceptors, my receptors in my joints and muscles and skin, and that helps me feel a little more awake, and maybe I turn the music up nice and loud and I'm ready to go for the day. So I'm rocking out to AC/DC, nice and awake and alert and ready to get into my day. Now, as a PEDS OT, working in a clinic with great sensory motor opportunities for play, I get to jump and crash and crawl and climb and swing for a living. It is perfect for a sensory seeker like me to be able to feel awake and alert throughout the day. I might have a bit of a dip after lunch, and maybe in the afternoon it's hard to get back into things. Maybe by the end of the day, I've gone through this curve and I'm getting to a place where I'm just a little bit angsty, a little bit stressy as I'm getting closer to my high zone. And maybe I'm running late, I got to the car, there's flicky lights, there's funny noises, I drop my keys, I get in the car, I turn the ignition, and bam, I'm blasted with AC/DC at full volume. Now, that's going to make me panic and turn the ignition off. What I'm going to tell you here is that that's really not the best plan in my car because you can't turn the volume down when the ignition's off. But really what I've done there is I've gone into a little bit of flight. So the high zone is your fight, flight, and even freeze zone is one step further. And so I haven't terribly gone into flight, but I've panicked and turned it off. I haven't been able to access my thinking brain to be able to say, oh, I'm blasted, I'm going to reach across and turn the volume down. And what that means is I'm going to have to get blasted again. But I can take a breath. Maybe I push on the steering wheel here to feel a bit grounded. And then I can make a quick plan. Turn it on, turn it down. And so then I do it. I turn it on, I get blasted, I turn it down, I take another breath, and everything's okay. I can recover pretty quickly from that. The second part about that being in the high zone, it wouldn't have been good for language. So if my wife had said to me, Dave, let's talk about the budget, I'd be like, can't talk right now, until I was able to get my lid back on and get back into my optimal range. So if nothing else goes wrong from then, I've recovered, I'm in my optimal range, I can drive home, I can get safely home, and I can do the things I need to do to calm down and get nice and low to where I can go to bed at night. So that's a range across a typical day. A couple of things to point out is we all have sensory systems, we all have sensory diets, we all have sensory needs. We don't all have good sensory diets, and we don't always have sensory diets that meet our sensory needs, but we also don't have the same thing. So we really need to be reflective of our own needs. Some people need a shower to wake up in the morning, some people need a shower to calm down in the evening. Even within the same person, it can be different across different times of the day. So for me, firstly, some things can be the same across both. So heavy work and input to the muscles like proprioception was really good for a stretch to wake myself up in the morning, but it was also really good to feel grounded in the evening after I'd blasted myself with the music. The music was something that had very different effects at different times of the day. So what we saw with the music was in the morning when I was really low and I needed to wake up, but I was also in control of it and I could do it so that I could predict it and wake up to it. It was great for waking me up when I was low. In the evening when I wasn't prepared for it and I was really edgy, on the edge of my skin, close to that high zone, and it was unexpected, I couldn't anticipate it, it flipped me into the high zone and put me into flight. But then I recovered pretty quickly. But then the second time I could predict it and I knew I could control it. So rather than flipping my lid, I was able to hold onto my lid. And so what I want to say is at that stage, I was still close to my high zone. I didn't like it. It didn't feel good. But because I could predict it and because I could control it, it didn't flip me back into that high zone. So that's a typical nervous system, a nice broad range of just right. We do change across the day. There is a summative effect, an add-on effect across the day. Really, the day relies on where you started and how you slept the night before. But in terms of just looking at different ways that sensation can impact your day, that's what we wanted to get out today. Just remember, we all have sensory diets. We don't all have good sensory diets. So if you can be more reflective, you can make choices to help yourself feel both calm, but alert and attentive. That's the goal. And also, once we understand it in ourselves, then we can help our kids with their particular sensory diets and their needs as well. Don't forget to hit that red subscribe button so you don't miss out on future ones. Particularly in this series, we have low arousal, sensory seeking, sensory defensive coming up. We'll also talk about narrow band and what that is. And I might even throw in a term we've been using called the grey zone. So look out for those. Hit that red subscribe button, leave some comments below so that we can have a discussion about anything you've learned, any aha moments, or anything you'd like to add, or any topics you'd like me to discuss. See you next time.